Thank you, Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Speaker of Parliament, the Honourable Prime Minister, the Honourable Deputy Prime Ministers, the Honourable Leader of Opposition, Members of Parliament, and the people of Fiji who may be listening to this broadcast through Walesi or live streaming or on radio today. Honourable Speaker, I rise today to present to this esteemed House the findings of the Walesi PTE Limited audit. It consists of two parts. Part one is a technical assessment of Fiji's digital television transmission setup, and part two is the special audit on Walesi's financial management and governance. Honourable Speaker, someone in this House in the last few days used the words ineptitude and incompetence on the People's Coalition. All I can say, sir, through this report, right back at you to the other side of the House. From the outset, Honourable Speaker, these findings reveal a troubling legacy left by the previous government. One marked by mismanagement, lack of transparency, and a reckless disregard for public resources. Honourable Speaker, I stand here today with absolute clarity, recalling the relentless boasts of the previous government about the so-called digital television initiative. They held it as one of their proudest legacies. But let me be unequivocal, Honourable Speaker. Walesi, under their leadership, was no legacy. It is a travesty, Honourable Speaker. A colossal failure wrapped in incompetence, mismanagement, and empty promises. The governance, reckless. The planning, non-existent. The execution, a national shame. Walesi is not a triumph, Honourable Speaker. It is a stain. It is a glaring example of arrogance and neglect, a testament to how leadership can sink when blinded by vanity. Honourable Speaker, it is a disgrace, and the people of this nation deserve better than the hollow records they have left behind. Under the guise of modernization, they pursued an agenda of control. The now repealed MIDA Act is a testament to this, a law that stifled media freedom under the pretense of development. Today, we examine the results of these investigations. It is evident that Walesi was another instrument in their flawed agenda. Honourable Speaker, before I share to this august House and the people of Fiji the findings of the Walesi audit, I would like to make one important point. DTT, or digital terrestrial television, is undeniably a vital asset for a developing nation like Fiji, offering access to information, education, and public services, including the broadcasting of our parliamentary sessions. But, Honourable Speaker, if implemented properly and managed well, it represents progress and opportunity for Fijians. However, Honourable Speaker, while the service has value, its implementation under that side of the House was plagued by poor management and governance, lack of accountability, and oversight. I'll share part one of the findings, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, the technical assessment was conducted with the assistance of the International Telecommunication Union, or ITU, an engagement of an international expert in digital terrestrial television who has uncovered systemic flaws in the design and implementation of Walesi's digital television network. Number one, non-compliance with regulatory standards. Mr. Speaker, Walesi failed to obtain the necessary operating and spectrum licenses for its operations. So you can argue it was operating illegally. This not only exposed our nation to risks of interference from critical services like civil aviation, but this reflects poor oversight and negligence in complying with basic international telecommunication obligations. Number 2, limited accessibility. While Walesi provided free set-top boxes to low-income households, encryption policies forced on families earning over 30,000 annually, forced families earning 30,000 annually, over 30,000 annually, to purchase proprietary services which are supposedly free-to-air services. This undermines the principle of universal accessibility. Number 3, suboptimal network design. Honorable Speaker, the network was implemented using a multi-frequency network, MFN, a model which has significantly higher operational costs compared to the more efficient single-frequency network, which is recognized globally for providing better coverage and cost efficiency, especially in countries like ours. This basic failure of planning reflects lack of foresight. Number 4, poor technology choices. Despite the global standards in 2016 pointing to the transition to more modern technology, the H.265 HEVC codec, the network instead utilized H.264 codec. This decision, Mr. Honorable Speaker, meant that over 200,000 set-top boxes distributed at significant public cost were outdated and from the beginning, and the question was not if but when these would need to be replaced, making this an absolute waste of public funds. Number 5, on the technical side, Honorable Speaker, no sustainable operating model. Honorable Speaker, the review highlighted the absence of a sustainable framework for Walesi's operations. There was no structured review model, no strategic pricing for broadcastings utilizing the network, and no long-term plan for infrastructure maintenance. This was a fundamental failure to think beyond the immediate. Incompetence and ineptitude. Part 2, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the special audit or the financial audit into Walesi's operations paint even a bleaker picture, one of fiscal irresponsibility, poor governance, and outright waste. Number 1, mismanagement of public funds. From 2015 to 2022 in December, Honorable Speaker, that side of the House disbursed a staggering 123.6 million to Walesi. Despite this massive investment, the company has remained heavily reliant on government funding due to its inability to generate sufficient revenue. Honorable Speaker, 10 payments totaling 9.3 million could not be substantiated as relevant documentation was missing. This lack of records made it impossible to confirm whether these payments complied with the fund's intended purpose or legal requirements. The audit was also unable to identify the actual cost of the project against the budget. In fact, Honorable Speaker, there was no budget, and so the detailing of costs was not really transparent. However, as reported by the report, an analysis based on the purchase of inventories and additions to property, plant and equipment between 2015 and 2022 indicates that project costs exceeded 70 million. Honorable Speaker, number 2, procurement violations and governance. Honorable Speaker, procurement regulations were routinely ignored. In fact, sir, there was never a tender on anything in Walesi. High-value contracts, including a 3.6 million project management contract, were awarded without tendering. In fact, the tenders were waived. The project manager for the DTTV project, who got paid 3.6 million for the duration, revealed some very interesting facts, Honorable Speaker. The review by the audit revealed the following. The scope of work was very broad. The deliverables and timelines were not detailed. The contract did not have a closure and cost limit. Additionally, progress reports were never submitted to the board in a consistent manner. There was no evidence to indicate the projects were properly monitored, as there was no documentation provided during the audit. There was no closure or status report provided when the consultant exited. There was no evidence also in the audit to confirm that there was a proper handover performed by the project manager on the termination of the contract. Some other facts, Honorable Speaker. On top of this, 2.2 million of red flow batteries purchased for backup power or discarded due to improper storage are shocking wastage of taxpayers' money. Poor project management was highlighted very heavily, Honorable Speaker, in the report, and the things that I have mentioned exemplify these issues. And on top of that, Walesi did not even have a contract register of authorized vendors from 2015 to 2020. Honorable Speaker, beyond that, Walesi was operating without a strategic plan for years, Honorable Speaker. Basic policies, including risk management and procurement frameworks, were either absent or incomplete. These lapses allowed inefficiencies and irregularities to flourish unabated. Poor project management, Honorable Speaker. On top of that, as we have seen through that side of the House, there's so many delays in financial reporting. This is what the audit report said. Timely financial reporting and publishing of audited financial statements by public entities are indicators of good financial management that demonstrate transparency and accountability in the use of public resources. Honorable Speaker, the financials for Walesi were totally delayed, which is again, I said, indictment on this whole affair. Ambiguity in the legal framework, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the audit revealed significant gaps in the legal framework governing Walesi. The 100% government-owned company was not even covered under the Public Enterprises Act, further weakening oversight mechanisms and accounting structures. Honorable Speaker, these findings obviously suggest a high level of mismanagement and waste, and in addition, potential breaches of the law. As such, this side of the House, this government, will not stand by idly. I wish to assure this august House that the findings of the technical report as well as the special audit will be forwarded to the Fiji Independent Commission Against Corruption today for further investigation and action. Honorable Speaker, any evidence of abuse, misrepresentation, or fraudulent activity will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. Honorable Speaker, the findings of these investigations are a sad indictment on the previous regime. Shame on them. They demand immediate action to safeguard public resources and restore the trust in our institutions. Honorable Speaker, Walesi does have a role in communications in Fiji. However, be assured that this coalition government will not repeat the mistakes of the past. We are committed to implementing reforms that ensure that Walesi serves the interests of all Fijians. In fact, we have already started work on this. Number one, overhauling the governance. Mr. Speaker, sir, under the new leadership at the board of Walesi, they are developing a comprehensive strategic plan to guide its operations. This plan will include robust policies for procurement, risk management, and compliance with the laws and regulations of Fiji. All future requirements will adhere strictly to transparent tendering processes. Number two, enhancing accessibility. Encryption policies will be reviewed, Honorable Speaker, sir, to ensure all Fijians have true free-to-air access without the need for proprietary devices. Technical upgrades based on ITU recommendations will also be prioritized. Number 3, strengthening accountability. Honorable Speaker, spectrum licenses and frequency registrations will be expedited to bring Walesi in line with licensing practices and protect critical services from interference. Monitoring and evaluation frameworks will be established to ensure efficiency and transparency. Number 4, creating a sustainable model. Honorable Speaker, a transparent fee structure will be introduced in due course, together with a review of the Telecommunications Act of Fiji. This will hopefully create revenue streams that support Walesi's operations while keeping services affordable for all Fijians. Honorable Speaker, upon reflection, it is clear that there's been a significant level of abuse in the operations of Walesi. In my estimate, based on the figures and the numbers that I presented, 80 million, or at least 68% of the spend to 2022 can be considered as wastage and abuse by the previous government. Just imagine this, Honorable Speaker, just imagine this. We could have used this money for hospitals, for roads, for bridges that could have been constructed from this fund.
Order.
Finally, Honorable Speaker, the Walesi investigation reminds me again of Nambukalo Creek. Beautiful at high tide, but when the water recedes, it reveals the filth underneath. Like the Fijian saying, bulu-bulu bora-bula-bula. The surface seems pristine, but beneath it lay shameful wastage and abuse. Well, in 2 words, Saanduka. Public funds vanished into thin air, Honorable Speaker, a disgraceful squandering of resources. Honorable Speaker, let us be very clear. The findings of these investigations expose the failures of the past in stark detail, and we will fix them. They also represent an opportunity to correct mistakes and rebuild trust in our public institutions. Under this coalition government, Honorable Speaker, we will ensure that Walesi transitions from a symbol of mismanagement and abuse to a model of innovation and public service. Our commitment to the people of Fiji is this: we will serve them with integrity, transparency, and honesty. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.